Hi everybody, welcome back. This time I'm building the AMT Ertl 69 Corvair to resemble a car that I was able to drive when I was a teenager. One of my father's employees had one and he let me drive it from the parking lot around to the front of the building one time, and the experience was so interesting and the circumstances surrounding it that I still remember it vividly today. This kit comes with a lot of extra parts. It comes with two sets of tires, a regular size and some narrower, smaller sizes, which right now at this point I'm thinking of using the smaller ones. Here's a look at the chrome tree. Again, you can build this a couple of different, three different ways, and there's a lot of extra parts that I won't be using. This kit could be an MPC kit for all the flash and seams and cleanup that it is required to make it look good. So here we are after a few days of working on the AMT 69 Corvair. First thing I did was separate out all the parts that I'm not going to be using, because you can build this in three different ways as a custom or a race version. So these are all the parts I'll not be using. There's some narrower tires, racing seats, all kinds of vents. There's exhaust systems, chrome bits. This is the back seat to delete the back seat. There's a front nose cover here, all kinds of parts that we won't be using. These are the leftover parts that I will be using, the suspension and the regular, little bit wider tires. And I've separated out the chrome parts for the engine and the wheels. And I've got all the engine parts, the chassis, the interior tub, seats, everything's primed in black. I've got the body here, it was primed in black. That's the Rust-Oleum 2X rattle can primer. So I've done the interior body in black, and I've done the exterior in the Rust-Oleum white primer. I've painted the engine in three different shades of silver: oily steel, gunmetal, and tin acrylics. Unfortunately, they all kind of look the same over the black primer. I've got a bit of detailing to do on the chassis here. I've highlighted the bolts and some of the linkages. I'm going to just do a little bit of a metal and sort of a rusty color, dry brushed over that just to give it some weathering. Pick out a few details on the interior tub. It's pretty shallow on details in there, and I've just put a satin finish, a satin black on the seats. A little bit of that rust-colored primer dabbed on the wheel backs. So just a little more detail painting, and then I can start the assembly. And into the paint booth, where I airbrush a couple of coats of Folk Art Burgundy acrylic craft paint. I did a little bit of weathering on the chassis for the Corvair, and I did the black primer first, and then dry brushed some gunmetal over the, as I said in the previous video, over some of the edges. And then I took my craft paints, the brick red, burnt orange, and a little bit of yellow, and just kind of dabbed them on here and there, and just very lightly with the yellow, and it just highlights and just really brings out the rust. Then I brushed over the whole thing a coat of LA Totally Awesome Mop and Shine, which dulls it down and seals it. So you can see on the mufflers too, it's quite a bit of rust on those. It really adds to the effect. It's probably more than it should be, but I just enjoy doing that underneath, because that's where they seem to start first, and just adds more interest. One main difference in this build is that it doesn't use a regular V8 engine. It uses a flat opposed 6-cylinder air-cooled engine located behind the rear axle. It was a little intimidating to build at first, but once it got going, everything fit together well and became very interesting to see this new method of construction. Once I got the engine and exhaust installed, it was time to work on the interior and the body parts. The interior tub had very little definition, so I just had to do a little bit of detail painting on the dash and the door panels. You'll see here that I've plugged up the hole in the floor for the shift lever, because the model I drove had a push-button automatic transmission. For the tail lights I used Tester's Aztec Pearl White and Tamiya Clear Red. So once the body was painted and coated with a coat of Future, I used the Molotow marker to do the chrome trim and the badges, doorknobs and locks and so forth. And I did for the side marker lights as well as the front signal lights. They're here, and see that? They're there. And I'm going to take the clear amber and red and paint in those marker lights.